videotape presentation was produced for the Military Sealift Command by Advanced Marine Enterprises on the operation of Hagglund Cranes, taped aboard the TAKR USNS Antares in Jacksonville, Florida in June of 1986. The index which follows includes the 50 and 35-ton crane designations, the crane house and its components, the cabin and controls, preparing the crane for operation, both single and twin, the actual operation of the cranes, cargo handling at sea, and hand signals. Choose your area of interest and fast forward to the appropriate section. Crane designations. Two types of cranes are to be found on board the ship: TG3532 and TG5026-3532. TG3532 lifts 35 tons at an outreach of 32 meters. TG5026-3532 handles 50 tons at an outreach of maximum 26 meters, but is limited to 35 tons at 26 to 32 meters. Crane number 1 in a twin set is the master crane. Number 2, the slave crane. In twin operation, the craneman always controls the set from the master crane cabin. When the cranes are arranged for twin operation, the lifting capacity per set of cranes is doubled. Crane house and components. The entrance to the craneman's cabin is by way of ladders inside the crane foundation and the crane house. This applies for both types of crane. The major components placed in the crane house are the main electric motor, the main pump unit, the hydraulic oil tank, an electric motor driving the feed pump unit, the hoisting winch, the luffing winch, the slewing machinery, and the craneman's cabin. Controls in the cabin. Let us begin by looking at the controls that are found in both the 35-ton and 50-ton cranes. To start the pump unit, press push-button Start. This causes the warning lamp, "Do not operate on red light," to go on. The crane cannot be operated until the lamp has gone out. The low oil level warning lamps come on when the oil level in the respective hydraulic oil tank drops below a permissible minimum level. When the cranes are connected for twin operation and run in the twin mode, the craneman can also observe the oil level in the slave crane by means of an extra warning lamp, low oil level crane 2. If either of the low oil level warning lamps come on during operation of the crane, the pump unit must be stopped at once. Press the stop button and report the problem to the responsible ship's officer. The float switch must not be operated except by the competent ship's officer. The button marked siren operates an alarm bell. The switch floodlight controls the jib floodlights. The switch cab light turns on the light in the craneman's cabin. The cabin space heater is turned on with the switch cabin heater. Two switches control the heating rate of the heater. With both switches in position O, only the heater fan is running, both heater elements being turned off. One switch controls an 800-watt heater element, the other a 1200-watt heater element. With both switches on, the space heater irradiates 2,000 watts of heat into the cabin. The selector switch single control twin control selects the desired mode of operation of the crane set, single or twin. This decision is generally made by a trained crew member. Switch twin position is used to disconnect temporarily the functions of the slewing limit switches of the individual cranes. Beware! This bypassing of the limit switches is done when the cranes are to be set up for twin operation. Proceed with great care. This toggle switch is used to return a twin-rigged crane to synchronism if lost. These lamps and selector switches and pedal switch are used when handling cargo at sea. We will come back to this matter later on. The wiper switch controls the windshield wiper. This button is used to reset the circuit breaker of the wiper motor if released. The 50-ton crane has the following additional panel controls and functions. The luffing out switch has two positions. In position 32M, the crane will lift 35 tons at up to 32 meters outreach. In position 26M, the lifting capacity is 50 tons at a maximum of 26 meters outreach. The 50-ton crane has two hoisting winches, which operate in synchronism when this switch is set to normal operation, position 1. For reeving and adjusting purposes, the hoisting winches may be run independently. In switch position 2, only the right-hand winch is operative. In switch position 4, only the left-hand hoisting winch can be run. In switch position 3, or no sync, both winches can be operated, but without their synchronizing equipment. This position is only used when servicing the crane. The loudspeaker system. This system comprises an amplifier with a microphone, an internal loudspeaker, an external loudspeaker, and a pedal inside the cab with press-to-talk functions. To put the loudspeaker system into operation, turn the power switch on. Adjust the talkback volume into the desired level. Press the pedal and adjust the microphone volume into the desired level. If feedback should occur, turn the appropriate knob off until the noise disappears. Once adjusted, these knobs should be left in position so they are ready for operation the next time they're needed. Turn the power switch off when not in use. The joysticks. The left-hand joystick operates the movements of the hoisting winch, which moves the hook. It has two speed ranges. Moving the joystick into the right-hand position produces maximum lifting capacity at low speed. The crane may be used for its maximum rated load. Moving the joystick into the left-hand high-speed range, the crane will handle only 40% of maximum rated load, but at twice the speed of the low-speed range. The right-hand joystick operates the topping movements of the boom by moving straight forward and straight back. It also operates the swing movements of the crane by moving it to the left and to the right. The three crane movements may be operated separately, or any two, or all three together. Besides the stop button on the right-hand control panel, which we have already seen, there is on the left-hand control panel an emergency stop mushroom head button, which stops the supply of power to all working movements of the crane. When operated, the emergency stop button remains in its off position and will have to be pulled out by hand before the crane may be restarted. Preparing for operation. These steps apply to both single and twin operation of the crane. Have crew members verify that the ship is not listing by more than 5 degrees, as the crane should not be operated under such conditions. If the outside temperature is below 40 degrees Fahrenheit, the feed pump must be started at least 24 hours before the crane is to be operated. Turn the feed pump motor switch to the winner position in the 35-ton cranes or to the drift position in the 50-ton cranes. Then, close the main switch. This is necessary for the hydraulic oil to warm up sufficiently before starting the crane. When the outside temperature and the temperature of the hydraulic oil in the tank are at 40 degrees Fahrenheit or above, the feed pump motor switch should be switched to the summer setting in the 35-ton crane, which is equivalent to the remote setting in the 50-ton crane. Make sure that all brakes are clean and correctly adjusted with the pointer in the green area. This check should be made every time the crane is operated. Make sure that the wire ropes are intact, that they track correctly in the sheaves, and that they are securely clamped. Check the oil level in the hydraulic oil tank. If the oil level is sufficient, these lamps will be dark. The crane should never be operated when any red lamp is lit. Have crew members disengage the boom from its parking cradle. Both crew members and the craneman should check to be sure that there is no unauthorized person in the crane house. Once these steps are completed, the cranes can be set up for either single or twin operation. We'll begin with single operation in the 35-ton cranes. Set the single control twin control switch to the single position. Install the cargo handling equipment for single operation. Now, to start the craneman should make sure that the joysticks are in neutral. Then, press the start button and wait until the red warning lamp goes out. Disengage the slewing or swinging lock between the crane house and the twin platform, noting that this procedure is performed manually in the 35-ton crane and hydraulically in the 50-ton cranes. The twin set of cranes is now ready for single operation and may be run individually. Preparing for twin operation is essentially the same for both the 35 and 50-ton cranes. The single control twin control switch should be set to single, so you can slew the cranes into twin position one at a time. When the slewing locks can be engaged, they are in twin position. To find the exact position, temporarily disconnect the slewing limitation switch by turning the twin position switch. Execute the slewing movement carefully to prevent the booms from making contact with each other. Re-engage the slewing locks. Remember, this procedure is done manually in the 35-ton cranes and hydraulically in the 50-ton cranes. Run both the booms and hooks to the same height. Turn the single control twin control switch to twin position now and install the cargo handling equipment for twin operation. Prepare for starting as previously explained, and the cranes are now operational as a twin set. Once the cranes are in twin, if the hooks or booms come out of alignment by more than 2 feet, they will stop automatically. To continue operation of the cranes, hold the toggle switch while moving the joystick in the hoisting or topping position. Now that we've covered the pre-operation procedures, we can begin actual operation of the cranes. First, some general safety considerations. To avoid being caught in the winches or other machinery, unauthorized persons must not enter or pass through the crane house when the crane is in operation. During maintenance work in the crane house, while the crane is being operated, it is essential that contact by sight or by ear exists between the craneman and his helper in the crane house. Handheld ship's radios are used when out of visual contact. Before starting the crane operator shall always request permission from the competent ship's officer.
Request permission to operate the crane.
Permission granted.
Thank you.
The cranes are equipped with a number of hydraulic limitation devices. These are the maximum boom radius, the minimum boom radius, full drum limitation, empty drum limitation, slack rope limitation for hoisting, slack rope limitation for topping, and slewing or swing limitation. Maximum boom radius. We have already mentioned that a 35-ton crane lifts 35 tons at 32 meters outreach, the maximum boom radius. When the crane reaches 32 meters outreach, the boom movement downwards is stopped. We have also mentioned that a 50-ton crane lifts 50 tons at 26 meters outreach. This is the maximum boom outreach when lifting 50 tons. But when the load is reduced to 35 tons, the maximum outreach is 32 meters. The minimum boom radius. The boom movement upwards is stopped at minimum boom radius. Full drum limitation. The crane's hoisting movement stops when the winch drum is full. Empty drum limitation. The crane's lowering movement stops when the winch drum is empty. Slack rope limitation for hoisting. The crane's lowering movement stops when the wire rope becomes slack. Slack rope limitation for topping. The crane's hoisting movement is stopped when the topping wire rope becomes slack. A boom movement downwards is also stopped. Slewing or swing limitation. This device prevents collision between the two cranes' booms when they are operated close into each other. Overload protection. The cranes are installed with overload protection in all motions: hoisting, topping, and swinging. Overheating protection. An overheating sensing device stops the crane's main pump unit when the hydraulic oil temperature exceeds 185 degrees Fahrenheit. We have already seen how an operating crane may be stopped by pressing the stop button on the right-hand control panel, and with the emergency stop button on the left-hand panel. There are 3 more stop buttons, one at the entrance to the twin platform, and one at the top of a ladder to each crane house. These emergency stop buttons stop all crane movements by switching off the hydraulic pump unit. Remember, to restart the crane after pressing an emergency stop button, the button must be pulled out by hand into its normal position. Keeping these in mind, let's begin operation. To start the crane, put the joysticks in neutral. Press the start button and wait until the red warning lamp has gone out. If you are new to the game as a craneman, start by operating one crane movement at a time: hoisting, luffing, and slewing. As you get used to the response of the crane to the joystick movements, you may go on to running 2 of the movements at a time, or all 3 together. But always remember, safety goes first. Here are a few more hints on how to use the crane. Lift all the loads with the wire as nearly vertical as possible. Oblique lifting, as shown here, should be avoided at all costs. This also applies to sideways lifting or pulling. This is how to do it. A suspended load may be held stationary in either of 2 ways. With the hoisting winch joystick in neutral, the load is held stationary by the winch brake. By moving the joystick to the position shown here, in the low-speed range, or to the corresponding position in the high-speed range, the hoisting winch brake will be disengaged, and the winch will initiate a slow hoisting movement at a rate of about 3 to 4 feet. This slow hoisting movement may be canceled by moving the joystick a short distance towards lowering. The speed reduce switch has 2 positions, 1/1 and 1/2. For handling cargo, the 1/1 position should be used. For handling hatch covers, turn the switch to the 1/2 position. This setting limits the crane's lifting capacity to 25 tons, and the speed is reduced to 50% of the crane's normal speed. Caution: whenever hatch cover handling is necessary, proceed very slowly, with extreme care. If the crane must be stopped quickly in an emergency or for some other reason, release both joysticks, press the stop button, and call the responsible ship's officer. Some additional procedures apply when handling cargo at sea, specifically because of the motion involved when loading or unloading cargo from a lighter at sea. When handling cargo at sea, prepare for operation and starting with the same procedures detailed in previous sections. After the crane is started, set the jib stabilization switch to the on position. This prevents the booms or jibs from rising past the minimum jib radius when the ship is moving. Wait for the cylinder out lamp to light up, then set the sea operation switch. The brake open lamp will light up, indicating that the hoisting winch brakes are now disengaged. To compensate for the motion involved when handling cargo at sea, the hoisting winch circuits have a built-in automatic payout function, so that when unloading to a lighter at sea, wire will be pulled out by the weight of the cargo when the lighter drops away from the ship due to wave movement, preventing it from being abruptly jerked away from the lighter. Always make sure that the length of the slings between the hook and the cargo is longer than the maximum vertical movement of the lighter alongside the ship. During Sea State 3, the distance between the cargo and the hook must be at least 3 meters, or 10 feet. The automatic payout should always be on when transferring loads at sea. The auto-lowering pedal controls the automatic payout function. So, when loading cargo from the ship onto the lighter, after starting the crane and turning on the jib stabilization and sea operation switches, pick up the cargo, then press the auto-lowering pedal as soon as the hook swings over the side of the ship. If transferring loads from the lighter to the ship, the auto-lowering pedal should be in use as soon as the hook swings over the side, before the cargo is picked up. It should remain in use until the load has been picked up and the hook swings back above deck. The automatic payout doesn't actually come into play until the load has been set down on the lighter and the joystick is returned to the neutral position. Moving the joystick out of neutral, or letting up on the pedal, disengages the automatic payout, making it inoperative. The craneman should not disengage the automatic payout until the ship has been unloaded and he is ready to hoist the empty hook back aboard ship. If an emergency occurs in this situation, the brakes can be engaged by turning off the sea operation switch. But the emergency stop button can be used to halt all crane operations in an extreme emergency when handling cargo at sea. The final portion of this video training tape addresses the hand signals which all crane operators and assistants should be familiar with. Our crane operator demonstrates this important means of communication.
Swing to the right. Swing to the left. Hook down. Hook up. Boom or topping up. Boom or topping down. Swing to the right slowly. Swing to the left slowly. Down on the hook slowly. Up on the hook slowly.
This concludes this video training presentation on the operation of Hagglund Cranes, a production of the Military Sealift Command.